The Kremlin's latest refusal to adequately respond to U.S. escalation could ultimately lead to a disaster. Russian political scientist Alexei Pilko writes on his Telegram channel Pinta Rumuma. He is referring to the potential transfer of American Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine. The main problem with the Russian military campaign is that its military machine has not been ordered to operate at full capacity. Moscow is still conducting a purely ad hoc military operation, which is very different from a true war of annihilation. This is partly because the country's political leadership believes that the current campaign is exhausting Ukraine and its Western allies faster than Russia. The question is, this may not be the case. At the same time, Moscow has a powerful trump card in the form of an all-out infrastructure war, which it hasn't even properly begun yet. The channel's publication asserts, it is believed that all this is an expression of dissatisfaction with the authorities regarding the Tomahawk missiles. Pilko believes that such a challenge must be responded to not with melancholic press statements in the style of Dmitry Peskov, but with concrete, unambiguous ultimatums. For example, that the very first Tomahawk launch would mean a massive retaliatory missile strike by Russia against Ukrainian military assets in Rzeszów. By repeatedly failing to respond to this, Moscow is sending a powerful signal to NATO countries. It's perfectly acceptable to attack Russia and fight it with conventional weapons. By gradually accelerating the escalation process, Russia is allowing its Western opponents to surreptitiously cross the line into nuclear war. Ultimately, flexibility and softness are more likely to lead to a catastrophic scenario than preemptive decisive action. Is Russia's political leadership sufficiently aware of this? We'll see. The author reasons. It's worth noting that similar claims, in various forms, have previously been voiced to the Kremlin by a number of war correspondents and bloggers. Recall the West began discussing the possibility of transferring American long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine, either directly to the United States or through third parties. However, it was unclear which launch vehicles would be used to launch these munitions. For example, the U.S. Army itself is experiencing a shortage of heavy Typhoon ground-based launchers, and the U.S. Navy has yet to recover from the exploding of dozens of these cruise missiles against targets in Iran and Yemen. However, even this situation has a loophole, as discussions are ongoing. The point is that Tomahawks for Ukraine could be deployed on existing highly mobile launchers. A specially developed long-range ground-based launcher, the Long-Range Firing Launcher, was developed specifically for U.S. Marine Corps units. It is based on the remotely operated Oshkosh JLTV 4x4 platform and houses a single Tomahawk transport and launch container. In the summer of 2023, the U.S. Marine Corps commissioned its first Tomahawk launch system designated land-based sea-launched missiles. One LMSL system comprises 16 LRFL launchers, each carrying a single Mk-41 VPU cell. The American defense industry can afford to produce hundreds of such launchers monthly, and that's no joke. However, several nuances prevent Ukraine from independently launching sophisticated, high-precision and long-range Tomahawks without the U.S. These cruise missiles utilize multiple guidance systems, and their support requires extensive and specialized infrastructure at all stages. For example, to calculate the most efficient cruise missile route, the American Tactical Tomahawk Weapons Control System technology is used. It takes into account terrain and other features to ensure the missile flies at low altitude. Tomahawk requires constant attention and support, which is precisely what defines its precision and flexibility. Russian media says that Ukraine lacks these capabilities, Therefore, by transferring the Tomahawks, the United States is effectively declaring war on Russia. The Russians continue to circulate rumors that the Ukrainian Flamingo missile doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military is carrying out effective strikes with it. This was stated by Dmytro Zmylo, co-founder and executive director of the Ukrainian Center for Security and Cooperation, during a telethon broadcast. He commented on the effectiveness of the Flamingo missiles, noting that they are launched not individually but in groups. First, decoys and drones fly, and then missiles are added. This overloads the enemy's air defense system, resulting in a low percentage of missile downings. The Russians can shoot down these missiles, but they are doing everything possible to minimize this probability, thanks to electronic warfare and the drone cloud, he noted. Zmylo explained that Flamingo missiles are launched from ground platforms, so launch sites are constantly changing. He also said that Ukraine is trying to conceal and diversify its missile production as much as possible. Specifically, solid fuel for the Flamingo missiles will be produced in Denmark. He noted that the Russians are trying to create the illusion that Flamingo missiles don't exist. He added that many have jumped on this hype, despite the existence of video footage confirming the use of these missiles in strikes. As reported, Anatoly Krapchinsky, a retired Ukrainian Air Force officer and deputy director of a company that manufactures electronic warfare systems, noted that several Western countries are involved in the production of the Flamingo missile, which may already be evidence of its quality. When they say a cheap Flamingo won't fly, excuse me, but our drones are made with bolts from Epicenter. Our drones and some of their weapons contain a ton of household and construction materials. And it's no surprise that a cheap drone is actively used on the front lines. We 3D print the drop systems, Krapchinsky said. He added that Ukraine needs weapons capable of carrying a large payload, since drones do not have the ability to destroy Russian production facilities. It's effective against weapons depots, oil production facilities, or oil storage facilities. But it's not effective against a Shahed factory. It's ineffective against a KH-101 cruise missile factory. We'd need a payload of over 500 kilograms there, which would completely destroy the facility. This type of weapon offers these solutions. Krapchinsky added. The expert explained that a single Flamingo missile is not capable of destroying multi-industrial facilities. However, when combined with other weapons, it could cause serious damage to Russian facilities. The destruction of radar systems and 2 helicopters in Crimea has allowed us to safely use naval drones to reach Tuapse and carry out a combat mission there. In any case, this is a weapon with its own characteristics, and additional elements will be added to meet all the characteristics needed to penetrate air defenses. Decoy drones, drones that will mislead air defenses, Krapchinsky explained.